everyone, and welcome back to Casual Climbers, the podcast by and for beginning hikers. I'm your host, Donna Patrick, and alongside me is my husband and adventure buddy, Roy.
Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, Roy.
So in this podcast, we provide you with tips, tricks, and reviews of some of the many hiking trails here in the Blue Ridge area. Now, we may be unfit hikers, but we love the outdoors, and we want to share our experiences with you.
Maybe unfit hikers?
After yesterday, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfit, yeah. In today's full episode, we discuss the Lover's Leap Loop in Pisgah National Forest near Hot Springs, North Carolina. Donna has a fun fact that might not be so fun about the great flood that happened in the area in 1916, right along the French Broad River. And we review a great whitewater rafting excursion that runs literally right past the trail.
Yep.
So what do you say, Donna? Ready to get started?
Let's go.
Before we get started, though, Donna, I think we have some congratulations to announce, right?
Yeah, we ran into this lovely couple on the trail. Rose and her husband are celebrating their 10th anniversary, so congratulations.
Congratulations to the happy couple. They looked like they were having a really good time.
Yeah, and Lover's Leap Loop is the perfect place to go for a hike and celebrate a 10th anniversary, I think. I think they had it spot on.
As long as you don't,
Don't leave.
jump off.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
leave. I don't think that they looked like they were happy.
They seemed like they were leaving together, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, they're from Columbia, South Carolina, and they were up celebrating. They were staying at a
Verbo, right?
Yes,
nearby.
and they were very happy with it. And yeah, she and I stopped and talked for a while, and it
Very
was
sweet couple.
very
Yep.
sweet.
So congratulations to the both of you, and hopefully you have 10 more.
Yeah,
And 10 more beyond that, and
10
keep
more
going.
beyond that. Yeah.
Yep. So here's the Lover's Leap Loop by the numbers. The loop is only 1.68 miles long, but don't let that fool you, because it's tough. The time it took us was 1 hour and 36 minutes. Of that, 52 minutes was moving time. The lowest point is 1,200 feet, and the highest point is 1,650 feet. So that's 450 feet of elevation change over the course of 3/4 of a mile. It's steep.
Yeah.
It's a constant climb up. The friendliness, pets are allowed. We didn't see any reason for pets to not be there, but it is very rocky, very rooty. There's slippery stones along the way.
Yeah. Honestly, dogs do better than unfit hikers in some of those situations.
yeah.
Many of those situations. I wouldn't bring a small dog or,
They'd probably, I mean, you'd end up carrying it. Probably,
yeah,
most of the
I
time.
wouldn't
Yeah.
probably.
All right, so let's start from the beginning. To get there, search for Lover's Leap Loop parking area in Hot Springs, North Carolina on your map app. It'll get you right to the parking area. And there's actually two. There's a fairly good size one that has space for, what would you say, about 20 cars down right by the river?
Yeah, I don't know if the parking area, it was like a dirt parking
Yeah,
area,
it's
right? It
dirt
was
and
not
glass.
not like lines where you can see. So it kind of depends on the people
Yeah, how they
parking
park.
close
Yeah.
enough to each other, depending on,
Yeah.
how many cars you can fit in there.
And then if you go past that and to the left on the road, there's a much smaller parking area.
Yeah, maybe like 5 or 6 spaces,
Yeah,
but
6 if you squeezed in there. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, like I said, the parking is right there on the French Broad River. So when you get into the first parking area, you're overlooking the French Broad River. And yesterday it was moving.
yes.
It's very brown right now because of the silt that it's carrying, because we've had a lot of rain.
Yeah, and we had even more rain last night, so I kind of wonder.
It's probably moving even more now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the water level's about medium height compared to what they normally do. Certainly nothing like the 1916 height that you're going to talk about in your fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, the French Broad River's a big one. Did you know it's the third oldest river in the world?
In the world?
Yeah. Isn't that
I was
crazy?
waiting for the end of that sentence.
Yeah.
The third oldest river, in the region.
Yeah, I
in
don't
the,
even know how they figure that stuff out, but that's what the internet says, and it's on the internet.
Oh,
so you can trust it.
So you realize that the world has things like the Nile River and things like that, right?
I don't think the Nile River's in the world.
Yes,
I think
it
it's
is
a fictional river.
No.
Yeah. I don't know facts.
Yes, you do. I actually can't. I mean, the Rhine, is that a river?
Yeah, I mean, you have the Amazon, the
yeah.
Rhine, the Danube, the Seine. There's
Yeah,
tons of rivers.
lots of
out there.
the third oldest river.
Yeah,
How do they?
I don't know how they say.
I feel like
maybe
people
they just asked it. Hey, how old are you? And they're like,
well, that's rude.
2 million.
You can't just ask a river how old it is and expect it to be honest.
So you're assuming the river is a woman. Okay, so let's get back to the trail.
It is the French Broad River.
True. It's the French Broad River, which seems sexist to call it a French Broad.
It's actually not.
Yeah, no. So we're going to get back to the trail because we went off on a little tangent there.
Yeah.
Okay, so no matter which way you go on this loop, whether you go clockwise or counterclockwise, there is a steep and steady incline to the pinnacle. So the first quarter mile is fairly flat to get to the base of the mountain, either way you go.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you have a half a mile to go 450 feet up.
Right. So I want to say that if you're going to do this loop and you park where we parked, you're going to be walking along a road for a little while to get to the trailhead. To
get to the trailhead, yep.
If you didn't have your, I love map app. I love the sound of map app. I never want to do a trail without a map app. And also Lover's Leap Loop. I don't think I could say that 3 times fast. Can you? Lover's Leap
I'm
Loop?
not going to try.
Okay.
Because I don't want to embarrass myself.
All right. So if we didn't know that you're supposed to walk down the road and past some houses and stuff to get to the trailhead, I might be a little lost. And
yeah, so there is a sign that's kind of right there where the road curves to go to the second parking area. There is a sign that says Appalachian Trail. Now, so I want to make this clear to our listeners. About 3/4 of a mile of this loop is the actual Appalachian Trail.
Yes. So we've been saying those who may not quite be physically ready to tackle the Appalachian Trail.
We cut that out of our intro this week.
Because we
tackled, no, I'm going to say it, Donna. We tackled the Appalachian Trail.
Not the Appalachian.
Nope, it was
a portion of a very small portion of the Appalachian Trail.
It doesn't matter. Is it factually inaccurate to say that we hiked the Appalachian Trail?
Yes, it is factually.
No, I didn't say we hiked the entire Appalachian Trail.
We hiked a very small portion of the Appalachian Trail.
Don't take this away from me, Donna.
All right.
Don't take this away from me. It's going in my email signatures from now on.
What?
Hiker of the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, that's just pretentious.
Maybe. Maybe it's a little pretentious. So after you hike this, you can say you hiked part of the Appalachian Trail. Leave the part real low.
Yeah, I mean, like in small print.
Yeah, tiny little print.
Like you could
2-point agate font. Yeah. But it is a steep incline up, and you and I had to take a few breaks.
We had to work for it. Yeah, there were moments when I realized how slow I was going, and if you're hiking in front of me in this situation, I feel very much like, just go ahead, just leave without me. I'll get there.
You actually said that a few times.
I did. And
I had to get behind you.
That's why you got behind me, because you were like, nope, if you feel like you have to go this slow, then you set the pace, you set the speed. Because listen, hikers, you have a choice. When you're hiking it's more than just you. You'll have someone who is a faster hiker and someone who is a slower hiker. And there's no right answer to this. So I definitely think that you should always hike with a buddy, just in case something goes wrong.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think it's okay to get a little distance between you if you want to, if you're like just friends. I don't know, whatever. But
I disagree.
Do you?
Yeah, I disagree, because if you're hiking with a buddy, the whole purpose of hiking with a buddy is for safety, right? If one person falls. Now, if you get out of visual range of your hiking buddy,
something could happen.
And you won't know. So it's just like hiking by yourself.
Well, except that somebody's going to get back to the vehicle and be like, oh, hey, so-and-so's not here. Maybe I should go look for them.
But at that point, you've already fallen off the mountain.
Yeah. So, which, hey, don't say those words. Our moms get upset when you say those words.
I know. My mom, if you're listening, which you say you are.
She is.
She is. I can see the downloads coming from there. She sweats us all the time about bear spray. And there are notices at the parking area about
Oh,
bears.
yes. There was a notice
Yeah.
at the parking area yesterday talking about bears.
Getting garbage and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's bears in the area, and it makes sense. On this trail, the majority of it is a very narrow trail
Yes.
that is steep incline on one side of it and steep decline on the other, because you are quite literally walking up a mountain.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Yeah, it's almost straight up on one side, almost straight down on the other, and a narrow path. And that made me a little nervous. The sign about bears eating garbage made me nervous for all the houses that we walked past to get to the trailhead.
Yeah.
People are living there.
I'm sure they're used to it. Now, we did see some houses that seem to have garbage in not secure,
not bear
ways.
proof.
Yeah. So, but you know what? That's not our house. It's not our life. So,
it's not our business.
Hey, live your best life.
Is
what I say. So yeah. And the vegetation, the flora is very dense along this trail. There were many times where we were surrounded by thickets of foliage of some kind.
There was this one part of the trail where it was nothing but
it was rhododendron.
Rhododendrons.
Yeah.
Yes.
They weren't flowering, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think so. We're in July, the end of July, and I'm wondering if this would be super pretty with the blooms in maybe like May.
Maybe, depending on where it blooms up there.
I don't know.
I don't know, but you're right. So you make this turn and you're looking down into a part of a valley, and it's just covered with rhododendron plants.
Yeah.
So I can imagine when those flowers are blooming, it is a sight to see.
Right.
Because it is just covered as far as you can see with rhododendrons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's nice. So there's lots of switchbacks on this loop.
Yes.
Because if it were a straight loop, you'd be going straight up the mountain. It would be almost impossible to do. So
yeah,
you're kinda,
this wouldn't be hiking. This would be rock climbing.
This would be rock climbing, yeah. So the inclines are up to 21 degrees on the trail as it is.
Yes.
So I want everybody to be prepared. This is not an easy hike. This is definitely
and it doesn't claim to be. It doesn't claim to be.
That's right.
They're not lying. Sometimes they're lying. Sometimes they say moderate, and we're all like, "Oh my god, I almost died." That's not what they're saying. They are saying this is a difficult.
There was that signpost at the very beginning.
Yeah,
that there was the Gap Loop.
Oh,
and then there was the Lover's Leap Loop.
Yeah, there was.
The Gap Loop was yellow. What?
I think I took a picture.
Yes, the Gap Loop was a yellow trailblaze, and Lover's Leap Loop was a red trailblaze.
Red for Feel the Burn.
Yeah, and it said on this signpost, less difficult Gap Loop, most difficult Lover's Leap Loop.
Yeah, there was no in between.
No,
there was no like middle of the road. There was no Goldilocks zone for this. This was just easy, hard, and we took the hard.
Yeah, and even the trail apps like Komoot and All Trails consider this a strenuous hike.
They're right.
Yeah,
they're right. They did not. Props to them for being honest. Why did we do this?
I'm glad you asked that. We did this because of the vistas. When you get to the pinnacle, you are treated to amazing views.
Yes.
Of the river, the valley, and surrounding mountain chain.
Now, let me qualify this by saying that we have seen vistas off of hikes in the Blue Ridge Mountains that don't have any houses, like there was a solar
farm
down there
on one side. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you
will see civilization.
Right. Exactly. There's lots and lots of greenery surrounding that civilization.
And the river.
See
the river
yes,
winding its way through the valley.
And that's unique and special and beautiful. But if you're looking for vistas that have no civilization views, then we've got better vistas.
Craggy Gardens.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. The Craggy Gardens loop is the way to go. But even so, it does take away. And what I found to be a bigger takeaway, honestly, is that the entire trail, you and I heard traffic on the highway around.
Yes, 100%. Oh my gosh, it was loud. So we're talking not just regular traffic. We're talking like
semis.
18-wheelers. Yeah. It was loud in places. That takes you out of the moment.
It absolutely does. I was surprised at how much you could hear them.
Yeah. Even high up.
Yeah.
So this mountain we were hiking on must be just right next to a
highway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you and I commented on it a couple of times. God, that's so loud.
Yeah.
And because, when you hike, you really want to feel like you're immersed in nature. And hearing a semi gear down to go down a grade, it takes you out of it.
It does. It does. I will say, if you want to do this just the one side from where we parked, the bigger parking area, if you want to go in and back out to that parking area, staying closer to the French Broad River, that side of it.
Going counterclockwise, yeah.
It's a harder, like you have to, it's awkward getting up over those rocks and stuff when you get close to the pinnacle. But I definitely heard way less traffic on that side of the mountain.
Heard less traffic on the river side of the mountain, definitely. Mm-hmm. It is a harder incline.
It is.
Honestly, I found it to be a tough decline.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of loose gravel in those rocks.
Yes.
Now, thankfully, you and I navigated it safely without any problems.
Right.
But I would not have done it without hiking pole.
Hiking pole and the correct footwear. Don't try to do this in Crocs or slick bottom sneakers. Don't try to do this and be cute.
Yeah. Well, you were cute yesterday.
I was cute, but
yeah.
I was wearing my hiking boots because, like that tire commercial, what's riding on your tires. I mean, that your hiking boots are your tires. That's what's gripping.
Yeah. And there are plenty of places that you could easily fall and then tumble down the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plenty of places. Now, we did this going clockwise, and I did this intentionally, even though the trail apps have us going counterclockwise. I did this intentionally because if you go clockwise on the second half of the trail, after you come down from the pinnacle and those amazing views, and all of our photos are on the website and our Instagram, Casual Climbers Podcast. You can see photos there of some of the amazing vistas and the actual trail map with the incline profile. On the second half, you're walking right along the French Broad River. And so I got in the water there.
Yeah.
Now, there's no beach area. Let me just be very clear about this. If you want to get into the water, you have to kind of step down from the bank about 12, in some spots, 18 inches, 2 feet to get into the water. And it's very, very, very rocky. This is not like a Florida beach where you just step gently into the water.
It's very rocky, and the river was running really fast and hard, and like it could sweep you away.
It could easily. So I had to fight because the current was so strong.
Yeah.
But it felt so good to get in because I was sweating.
Yeah.
Completely sweating yesterday. And we went early. We started our hike at 10 a.m.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's early. Yeah.
I mean, it took us 2 hours to get there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fairly early on a Friday.
Okay.
To get there. Especially considering the sun hits its zenith there about 2 p.m.
Right, exactly. We don't get the heat of the day. The sun hits its zenith. I've not heard that.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you a meteorologist now?
I'm not.
Okay.
I just know words.
Okay. Do you?
I don't know river facts, but I know words.
Okay. So you brought your water shoes in your backpack to change into.
I did. Yep.
I did not, because I thought we had agreed that we were going to go back to the Jeep and then change into our water shoes and then get in the river. So
Did we agree to that?
I didn't get the memo.
I don't remember that.
I remember having
did we have a meeting?
We had an actual conversation.
I have nothing on my calendar.
You betrayed me. This was a betrayal.
It was not a betrayal. It was not a betrayal. I did what I thought was right, and I stand by my decision,
okay.
Quite frankly.
All right. Well, it was quite rude, I thought. So
you could have walked back to the trail and gotten your water shoes if you wanted to.
Yeah, we weren't that far from the Jeep.
No, it's not. A quarter of a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
getting in the water felt great, but you do have to be very, very careful. There are some spots where access to the river is easier than others, so just scout it. If you're going to get in the water, pick your spot. And because the water has so much silt in it, you cannot see down.
Yeah.
So I brought my hiking pole in the water so that I could feel depth and rocks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think your hiking pole is still wet from that. We need to let it air out.
Okay.
But yeah,
it's a lot of judgment from you on this podcast right now. I'm going to be honest. I know we've had some listeners suggests that we need more drama, I'm not sure this is working for me.
Well, I mean, let me let the listeners know the drama is always there under the surface. We are a married couple who have been together for how long now?
14 years.
14 years, yeah. So it's there. It's there. It's just, I'm just letting some of it out. I'm just venting a little bit, just verbalizing some of the, I mean, I mention when you do nice things. So maybe it's okay to.
Twice. You've mentioned twice in 27 episodes.
So nice 2 times in 27 episodes, you've done something nice, and I've mentioned it.
Okay, this trail notes is going off the rails. I don't know what happened. We may have to re-record this. I don't know.
No, we're good.
We're just gonna let them in.
Yeah.
Let the listeners in. Your mom is gonna be calling. After she listens and saying, "Hey, is everything okay with you and Roy?"
My mom will totally be on your side. She'll be like, "He's the best."
My mom is on your side. We should switch. Okay, so ultimately, Donna, would you recommend this trail?
I would.
I think I would too.
For the vistas.
Yeah, the vistas are nice. I wouldn't go out of my way to do it again. But if I'm in the area, if I'm on Hot Springs, North Carolina, Marshall, North Carolina area, I would do it.
Yeah. So this is our first episode after having visitors. Some family came to visit, and we went to go do the Triple Falls and Hooker Falls and swam under Hooker Falls.
Number one in our last week's top 5. Yep.
Yeah. It's just, that is so hard to beat. That is so hard to beat, even if you're just going to go to Hooker Falls just to swim under Hooker Falls. And I'm afraid that every single thing that every single trail that we review, I'm going to end with, yeah, I like this one and you should do it, but go to Hooker Falls and swim under the waterfall.
Well, we'll have to stop doing that because I feel the same way, but I have to force myself to not say, just do Hooker Falls. Yeah, this trail's great. But
one and done.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this was a good one. And it drew me in. The Lover's Leap Loop name drew me in.
Can you see why they called it that at the pinnacle?
I didn't.
I do. Because there's this rocky outcropping that takes you. We took a selfie up there.
Yeah.
The outcropping kind of just goes off the edge.
So
you could leap from there to your death if you wanted to. And thankfully, you did not have enough energy to push me off yesterday.
I would not push you off. I'm not going to push you off. But I will say that when we had guests and because we're going to review the whitewater rafting, but when we did that, I did a leap off of a rock into water.
You did?
From that. Scariest thing I've done in my life.
You were a champion, though.
Holy cow. Well, anyway, off topic, but
we'll talk about that in our review section this week.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, I would recommend it. Definitely feel the burn, though. By far, feel the burn.
Yes.
Just the incline itself. Yes, it's a short loop, but the incline and the decline, the challenging decline, makes this a feel the burn.
I'm going to qualify my recommendation for this and say maybe do this when the rhododendrons are blooming. Try and do this when the rhododendrons are blooming. Because I think it would have been a very different feel coming around the corner and seeing that explosion of flowers.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So today's fun fact is not really fun so much. It's a story about the flood of 1916, which we actually found out when we found out about this when we were whitewater rafting.
Yeah, Emma told us about the flood and how it basically destroyed an entire village settlement there.
Yes.
And wiped out a good portion of the entire county, including Asheville.
Yes. Yeah. It was crazy when we were whitewater rafting, and she pointed out the mountains around us and said that's how high the water would have been covering that house and covering that house, and it would have been,
we're talking 100 feet up.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Crazy. So the flood of 1916, this is the story of the great flood that hit Western North Carolina in 1916 on July 8th, 1916. So we're now in July of 2024. So it would have been this month.
Yeah.
In 1916. Rain began falling in the mountains as a tropical storm from the Gulf Coast dumped between 3 to 5 inches over the next 2 days. The French Broad River quickly rose to 8 feet above normal on the 11th before it gradually fell. So 8 feet above normal. That's pretty high.
That's very high. 8 feet above normal is very high because you have we've seen houses along rivers that aren't 8 feet above them.
Right.
Now they have since, made adjustments, but that was just the first part.
That was just the first part.
Yeah.
Western North Carolina residents had no idea of the other storm heading their way from the Atlantic.
They didn't look at the internet back then and check weather.com?
In 1916?
Yeah.
No, they did not.
That's on them then.
It's kind of, I suppose. So, yeah. The rain began falling once more on the already saturated hillsides and valleys on July 15th as another storm moved inland from Charleston. 14 inches of rain fell in Brevard and 12 in Hendersonville within 24 hours.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Unable to hold any more water, the French Broad River swelled like never before in recorded history. By 9 a.m. on the 16th, the river had risen to over 18 feet, and then an hour later, the gauge was washed away. The French Broad hit an estimated 24 feet, while the Swannanoa River likewise crested at over 20 feet. The flood spread, foaming and writhing, to reach almost a mile-wide swath in Asheville. 6 Ashevilleans died, while 8 in the Hickory Nut Gorge region perished.
Wow.
So
it flooded Asheville.
Yes.
And we already have at least 8 deaths, and that's just the ones they knew about.
Yes. So this story, this fun fact, I'm calling it a fun fact.
No, this is a blast so far.
Yeah. This story is going to center around this one survivor who was an Asheville resident, Kathleen Lipe, I think is her last name. Kathleen Lipe, and then she married later on after her last name was Carter. She was born in 1898 and she died in 1989. She recounted some of her recollections of the early days in Biltmore Village, and they provide a touching and highly personal look at the life in Biltmore Village before, during, and after the flood of 1916.
Nice.
Yeah. So here are her words as given to the Heritage of Old Buncombe County in July 1986, the 70th anniversary of the flood.
So this is her actual words.
These are her actual words.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. My parents, James Cornelius and Sarah Annabella Clark Lippe from Mooresville, North Carolina, were among the first residents of Biltmore Village. Our 2-story home had a wide front porch, shaded by vines in summer, and stood on the banks of the Swannanoa River near the old iron bridge that led to Asheville. Papa, a master carpenter and superintendent of skilled labor for the Vanderbilt estate, told me that when Biltmore Village was finished, Mr. Vanderbilt gave it to his wife as a birthday present.
Yeah, we covered this when we talked about Mrs. Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't get over a village. Like Biltmore Village was a gift from a husband to a wife.
Yeah. The biggest mansion in the country.
Here's a present.
Kind of makes my anniversary gifts look.
Like, how do you wrap that present? Was there like a bow somewhere in the village that like...
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to have to step up my game, though, the more you read about this stuff.
Yeah.
The perfume I get you is kind of paling in comparison.
I love that perfume.
I know.
In those days, okay, so we're back to
Kathleen's
story. Yes. In those days, Mr. Vanderbilt's dream of a model village included having the lawns. The story says the lawns moved for the residents, but I think it meant mowed.
Mowed.
For the residents. The youngest of 7 children, I was baptized at All Souls Church, Biltmore, and attended the parish school where Cornelia Vanderbilt was a student. The school, a 1-story stucco building architecturally similar to homes of village residents, had the best equipment, waxed floors, and on the walls, copies of old master paintings. My excellent teachers insisted on good manners and high standards. One day I wrote a composition about a drive up Mount Pisgah with Papa in a buggy. Having supervised the building of the Vanderbilt Lodge at the summit, he needed to inspect it.
Yeah, that was the hunting lodge that we covered in one of the episodes where Vanderbilt had a hunting lodge that was still massive.
Oh my gosh.
Built up there. So
yes.
This lady, Kathleen's father, helped supervise the construction. So she's super close to the Vanderbilts.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, fascinating story.
It really is, yeah.
She says, I wrote that coming home, this is what she wrote in her paper for school. I wrote that coming home in a buggy, we hit the high spots all the way down the mountain. My poor it says my poor grade. Oh, my poor grade. She got a bad grade on the paper. My poor grade, the teacher explained, was based on my use of a slang expression. So I had to look up, this is me talking, not her. I had to look up what hit all the high spots. Hit the high spots, what that meant.
I'm assuming it means
I thought
all
it meant
the good
like
things.
Yes. I thought that it meant like hitting high parts of the road, bumps in the road or something.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right. So in the early 1900s, the phrase "we hit the high spots" was slang for visiting the most popular or exciting places in a city or area.
So she got dinged for that.
Yes,
good Lord, that is a tough grader.
That is, yes. She was not supposed to say we hit the high spots. That was slang. That was improper for a young lady.
I would not have passed this class.
Who would?
And I have a degree in journalism.
Yeah.
I would not have passed this class.
Well, I'm sure back then, I don't know, you probably would have known the rules and followed them. You're kind of a rule follower.
Am I a rule follower?
I think so. I'm more of a rule breaker. I mean, you're Mr. Safety first. Let's wear our seatbelts, drive the speed limit.
Yeah, you should wear your seatbelts.
Yeah.
That's not because I want to respect the law. It's because I don't want anybody getting hurt. Because there's a bunch of idiot drivers out there.
That's true. And I'm not dinging you on that. I'm not criticizing.
I feel like it's more judgment. This is the judgment podcast episode.
All right. No, you're very responsible, and that responsibility is attractive to me. I appreciate. Okay, I'm just not even gonna. No. Okay.
Keep digging.
All right. The school sponsored a May Day festival on the village green, a special day for young and old, with folk dancing and winding of the maypole. In 1909, at the end of my 5th year, the school closed and I entered public school. In the early days when our home had no electricity, our Christmas trees were lit by candles.
Oh, that's sweet.
It is sweet. Such a fire hazard.
Yeah.
You're cutting a tree down.
Yeah.
Bringing it in the house.
I mean, hopefully the tree's alive. And alive trees typically don't burn from candles, but they could, especially if you're wrapping paper garland.
Also, what is the house made of? What are houses made of? Wood, right?
Steel.
No.
Aluminum.
No. Houses are made from wood.
I think we'll agree to disagree on that.
Okay. All right. But also, it breaks my brain. Like, how did they fasten the candles to a tree?
I don't, when you watch real old movies or even look at pictures of Christmas, they all had candles on their tree.
I know.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Lady and the Tramp had candles on the Christmas tree.
A historically accurate film. Almost a documentary.
My family attended Christmas parties at Biltmore House given by the Vanderbilts for their employees. I remember standing with Cornelia and classmates on a polished table in the banquet hall to view the presentation of gifts to each guest. Many of the gifts had been purchased by the Vanderbilts during their travels in Europe.
Wow. So George and Edith bought presents for not only their daughter, but also for families in need. The more I hear about, and I'm sure, let's be fair, Edith Vanderbilt was the one who bought these presents.
I mean,
I'm sure he was a nice guy, but
yeah,
everything we hear about Edith Vanderbilt, she was the real deal, good person. So she was probably like, George, give me money, I'm going to buy this. Or George, I'm using our money to buy this.
Yeah. I don't know how it went down, but George loved her so much, and then she just loved everybody else, and the world benefited.
Yeah.
I think that's how it happened.
Yeah.
The most memorable, so we're back to Kathleen. The most memorable event of my life in Biltmore occurred 3 weeks before my 18th birthday on July 16th, 1916, when the Swannanoa overflowed its banks. Papa, knowing the foundations of our home on the riverbank to be strong, did not expect trouble, but Mama took Nell, my crippled sister, and my grandmother Clark to stay with friends on higher ground. So there's a note here. The higher ground that Kathleen Lipe Carter was referring to was the Plaza building, which was torn down in the 1940s to make way for a restaurant and other buildings. In its place today is the building where Tabbitt's Clothing is located. Her mother, sister, and grandmother stayed in the second floor apartment of a friend in this building throughout the flood.
Okay.
Which this flood took days.
I think it was a couple weeks before the water receded. But yeah, I mean, it was constant downpour and flooding for days and days and days.
Yeah. So before dawn on the 16th, my sister Bess and I found Papa securing some chickens and turkeys on the front porch. So securing chickens and turkeys on the front porch.
I guess putting them on a leash? Or in cages?
I'm thinking that they're in cages and then you're tying the cages to the front porch, but I can't imagine that these animals survive.
I can't imagine.
I think it would be better to just let them go, be free, and try and make it. Like they'd have had a better chance of survival.
Probably. He didn't want to lose them, and nobody knew how bad it was going to get.
Right. Yeah. Again, not checking the internet.
Should have.
So already sightseers from the village were waiting near the house to view the swollen river. With Papa, we joined a group of forestry students and young people heading into the village. To my surprise, as we crossed the train tracks, the water became deeper, the current more swift. Our group held hands, keeping our backs to the current, and struck out across the village green, hoping to reach high ground before the lodge, beyond the lodge gate to the Biltmore estate. By the time we reached Lodge Street, the water was almost over our heads.
Wow.
Torrents from broken dams upriver had changed the course of the Swannanoa. We were caught in the middle of a wild, wild river. Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem with floods, right? It's not just the rivers swelling. They swell so much
that they
break dams,
yes.
Which further adds water.
Right.
Yeah.
And changing the course of the river. Can you imagine?
No, I can't.
The power.
The Swannanoa is not a small river at all.
Yeah.
It's a legit river. So changing its course is amazing.
Yeah. Some of the men swam to safety. Bess, who had waited ahead, spent the day on a pile of jammed lumber, praying it wouldn't be swept away. Though a good swimmer, Papa helped me and 3 young women to grab hold of a large tree near the lodge gate. Both Vicky Foister and Charlotte Walker were nurses at the hospital. Marion Walker was only 15 years old.
Oh, no.
None of us were strong enough to shinny up to safety in the branches far overhead. We stretched my sweater around the trunk to hold onto. She was moving up as the cold water rose.
Mm-hmm.
Papa positioned himself behind me so that I was cradled in his arms. So this is a very sweet part of the story.
Yeah, it's starting to get sad, right? So this man is holding his 17-year-old daughter as tightly as he can to a tree as water is rising and pulling them all away.
Yeah. They're all just hanging on for dear life.
Yeah, with every ounce of strength that they have, which normally you could only do for a few minutes, right?
Yeah.
And they're having to do this for
hours.
Hours and hours.
Yes. So there's a note here. Vicky Foister and Charlotte Walker were boarders in the Lippe home. Marion Walker, Charlotte's sister, was visiting her sister at the time of the flood. Regarding the flood waters, photos that were taken immediately after the flood as the water was subsiding indicate that the water reached approximately 9 feet at the entrance to the Biltmore estate.
9 feet. Now, the Biltmore
is high up.
It's pretty high up, and it's pretty far away from the river.
Yes.
So that is nuts.
Yes. I just cannot imagine. Crowds lined the shore to watch as lifeguards attempted to rescue us through the swift current. Men in canoes and on horseback failed. Who's trying to rescue somebody on horseback when the water's this?
When it's 9 feet? Yeah, I don't know.
That poor horse.
Yeah, the horse is like, bro, this is not happening. And even on a canoe, that water's moving so fast.
Right.
How are you going to stop yourself?
Exactly. Papa kept saying, if only they would get a flat-bottomed boat. So that's not something that I would have thought of, but apparently her dad was quite smart about these things. So, yeah, she said, our struggle to keep from being swept away by the swift cold current was exhausting us. So then, at last, when a lifeguard reached us, we insisted he take back Marion, the youngest. That's the 15-year-old.
Okay.
Though she agreed to go, on the way back, Marion panicked, fought her rescuer, and drowned.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
How awful.
Yeah, this story is making me want to cry. Charlotte, her sister, so this is Marion's, so Charlotte is in the tree and she's seeing her baby sister drown. So Charlotte became hysterical, crying, Marion, Marion, and shortly she dropped off the tree.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So,
fun fact.
Yeah, not so fun.
It does have a happy ending. Kind of.
Yeah. The rescuer that Kathleen Lipe referred to was a member of the Justice family, a young man, probably still a teenager at the time, who was well known as an excellent athlete and swimmer. A generation later, another member of the same family, Charlie Choo Choo Justice.
Choo Choo
Yes,
Justice.
yes.
I'm digging that name.
Yeah, came along and became perhaps the area's most successful athlete to date, playing football at the University of North Carolina, where he was named National Player of the Year in 1948.
No kidding.
Yeah, so the Charlie Choo Choo Justice. So he must have been
probably a running back, I'm thinking.
Oh, maybe, yeah. In football, that might be, yeah. But so Charlie Choo Choo Justice's relative is the one that was trying to save
his
lives.
Ancestry, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of cool.
So just a family of athletes, it sounds like. But I don't care how good of a swimmer you are.
Yeah.
You are not fighting that current. Even yesterday, when the water is not nowhere near that bad, you can't swim against that current. It's not happening.
But he was trying to. I think that there's.
Yeah, I know he was.
Like there's something to be said for that. And if Marion hadn't panicked, maybe he would have been successful.
She might have been. Yeah, he might have been.
I don't think he was trying to save her
by swimming.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the story. I lost track of time. Hours must have passed before I felt Papa's arms leave me. As he struggled to grab at the next tree, I wondered if he had a cramp. Then I heard his familiar shucks, shucks, as he was swept away. That's the last thing she heard her father say is shucks.
Shucks. That's awful. It's a very sad thing to hear. I can say with 100% certainty, I would not be saying the word shucks.
I think
as I'm getting pulled down the river, it's going to be way more colorful than that.
I think that was pretty colorful for that day and age. I mean, if hitting the high spots is something that's going to ding you on a paper, I think shucks is pretty bad.
There's going to be a lot of four-letter words coming out of my mouth as
I'm
being pulled away.
Yeah. So I'm reading this from an article that we found, and there are photos within the article, and there's a photo.
Where's the article from?
You know what?
We should cite it.
Yeah,
so
we will cite it.
Okay.
I
know the Kathleen story was taken from Asheville.com.
Okay, so yeah, there's some pretty good photos in there of the area and the flood and the time. Vicky Foister gave no cry when she let go. I was praying for the strength to hang on when I missed her. Alone, I continued to pray, hoping that Papa and the girls had managed to grab another tree. Out of nowhere, a man reached the tree where I clung and climbed into its branches. When I begged for his help to climb up, he explained that, as a father and husband, he could not take the risk. Instead, he let down a branch offering to pull me up. Exhausted, as soon as I was raised from the water, I fell back. Frantically, I grabbed for the tree again. Now my sweater was gone. My inner thighs gripping the rough bark were raw. I wondered how much longer I could last.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of sad.
But she made it.
So, yeah.
So she made it. She made it to the shore.
No, she was still in the tree at this point. Suddenly, I saw a lifeguard swimming toward me with a rope. When he reached me, he tied me to the tree. Then I knew my life had been saved. So...
Oh, so he just...
Yeah, so
this guy just tied her to a tree so she didn't have to hold on with her muscles.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so she had seen a man who was not a lifeguard, who was just trying to save himself. He reached the tree where she clung on and climbed into his branches. And she begged him to help her climb up. And he said,
I can't because I have a family.
Right.
I don't want to risk it.
Right. But that guy let down a branch offering to help pull her up. But she was too exhausted from hanging on in the tree to get there. So then another lifeguard swimming toward her with a rope, he reached her and tied her to the tree, and she got saved. Sometime in the afternoon, about 8 or 9 hours after I had left home, men reached the tree in a flat-bottomed boat. So they did finally get the flat-bottomed boat.
She was holding on for 9 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
Only after I had spent several days in the hospital was I told that my father, Vicky, and Charlotte had drowned. Our home stood until the water subsided, then collapsed into the Swannanoa.
Oh, wow. So it stood
until
the water recedes. I mean, I guess that makes sense, right? Because as the water recedes, it's pulling all that sand and dirt and earth that the house is sitting on.
Sure.
Down with
and
it.
If the water was, if the house was underwater, then the water was softening the house and damaging the house.
Probably.
And all of that. And, affecting joints and everything.
Just too much for it.
Yeah.
Just too much.
And then, Yeah, it's a sad story. It's a sad fun fact.
But she lived.
She did live.
She lived.
Yes, and she had an amazing story to tell. I
Yes.
think that you found something about Edith Vanderbilt making coffee and sandwiches.
Yes. So during the flood and in the days following it, when they were still trying to recover by finding bodies and
Yeah.
and getting people treatment, Edith Vanderbilt herself
Was in the
making
kitchen.
sandwiches and coffee and tea for the survivors and the
workers.
the rescue workers,
Yes.
along with her staff.
Yeah.
So this is one of the richest women on the planet at the time
Mm-hmm.
in the kitchen making food for survivors and rescue people.
Yeah. Edith was the real deal.
That's a good person.
Yeah.
Because she could have easily just said, "No, I'm not." Yeah, I have a
What
staff.
billionaire? I mean, maybe there's a billionaire
Today,
out there.
I don't think there's any billionaires.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
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 I don't know.
If they are, they should get some like notoriety.
I know Bill and Melinda Gates do a lot of good work. I could see Melinda Gates doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that I would be that kind of person if I had that kind of money.
I hope so too. Didn't Kathleen become a teacher afterward?
Yeah. Yeah. I think she did.
She became a teacher and then an advocate for a lot of area human rights causes. So she made a lot of her life. So good for Kathleen.
Yeah.
It's a tragic start to her young life. I mean, she was 17.
Almost 18.
Almost 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she lost her father and several close friends.
Yeah.
Her mother and other sisters lived, so that's good. They got out, if only the others would have gone with them.
I find it interesting. Now just follow me here. I find it interesting that her prequel to this story of death and destruction by this flood, she mentions getting a bad grade on that paper for using slang. I wonder, what's the how bad did she feel after getting that bad grade that made it into this story?
To make it into her story.
Yeah, she must have been a straight A student that got really good grades in order for that to be part of.
And she got a B+ on this one.
Oh my gosh, she's like kindred spirit, right? Because that's how you are if you get a B+ on something, right? Like you are. Have you ever gotten a B+ on something ever?
Yeah,
well,
I'm
math.
Math.
Yeah.
Math I get bad grades on.
Yeah, and it's devastating to you. Almost like a flood that destroys an area.
It's close.
It's close. Lives.
Math.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's close to it.
Yeah. So she probably
it clearly stuck with her, right?
Yes.
This is something that happened, and she told this story in the 80s.
Yes.
So she was born in 98, so she's almost 90, if not 90.
She was born in 1898.
Yeah.
1898. That's crazy.
So she was almost 90 when she told this story.
Yeah.
And she remembers
and
this
the
bad
two
grade.
things that she's talking about are a bad grade and a devastating flood.
The devastating flood, you can totally
Right.
why.
Yeah.
This is a life-altering event.
Imprinted on your brain for sure. 100%.
The bad grade?
Yeah. Bad grade. Yeah. I mean, maybe she was indignant. Maybe she was like, my teacher shouldn't have given me such a bad grade for that.
She didn't sound like it.
No, she didn't sound like she was indignant. I don't know. It was just devastating to her. Like, did she carry that with her? Like, you shouldn't have used those words. I shouldn't have used those words. I shouldn't have used those words.
Clearly something stuck with her 90 years later.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, it's an impressive story of survival.
Yeah.
Right? To hold on for so long.
Yes.
In such harsh conditions because the water's freezing.
I can't.
And it's doing everything it can to pull you off the tree, and you are fighting it with your muscles as a 17-year-old young lady.
Right.
So good for her. And it's tragic. She lost her father and some close family friends. That's awful. But she made the most of her life afterward. So
yeah.
So in that way, it kind of is.
Well, it's a story of a survivor,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep trying. Keep going.
Hang on to that tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Until you can move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. Thank you, Donna. That's a good story.
Absolutely.
So today's review is the Nantahala Outdoor Center. And they have several different outposts. And the one that we went to was the French Broad River Outpost.
Right. In North Carolina.
In North Carolina. It's in Marshall. It's technically in Marshall, but it's really kind of right between Marshall and Hot Springs. Now, they offer a ton of different things. Zip lining, whitewater rafting, kayaking, tubing, mountain biking, and many, many more at the different locations. We did whitewater rafting with our son and close family friend who's been with our family for decades now.
Yeah, I think of him as a son.
Yeah, I do too.
Michael, if you're out there, thanks for coming to visit.
Yeah, Michael and Carter visited. We had a blast, and we had a blast whitewater rafting. It was their first time whitewater rafting.
Yes.
And so we did whitewater rafting on the French Broad River right there at Lover's Leap Loop. That's where we passed by it as we were rafting down the river. They have a bunch of different packages that you can buy. And the one we did was the half-day deluxe rafting trip. And it included lunch. And I was really surprised at how good the lunch was.
Oh, I was too. I have been thinking about that lunch. The guides were the ones that set up the lunch. And it was so good.
So they carry these lunch in coolers
Mhm.
down. And so it's in the rafts. So we had, I think, about 8 rafts in our whole group that went rafting. And so there will be 1 or 2 coolers in each of the rafts. And it had lunch meat and tortilla shells.
Yeah.
And you basically made yourself a wrap.
Yeah. Mustard and mayonnaise and
lettuce and onions and tomatoes and
orange slices and Oreo cookies and water to drink, which is fine.
Yep. Absolutely fine. They had hummus.
Yeah.
Black bean hummus.
That was so good.
Cookies, and orange slices and fruit. I was very surprised. I was expecting it to be like just a quick box lunch. With
right. I thought it was going to like
sandwich.
Peanut butter and jelly or something,
Yeah, but no, this was a legit good lunch.
And they had these big lettuce leaves that if you are gluten intolerant or trying to avoid carbs and you don't want to do the tortilla shell, you can just make your wrap in a lettuce leaf, and that works too.
Yeah, it was great because you start the whitewater rafting, and then about halfway through, you stop in an island in the middle of the French Broad River and eat lunch, and then you finish your trip. Our cost was about $70 per person, so it's very reasonable.
Yeah, for how many hours?
We were out for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And now, depending on how fast the river is, it can take anywhere from 3 to 5.
Okay.
So we were out for 4. The river was moving pretty good. Now, this particular trip in the NOC, that's what Nantahala Outdoor Center, NOC, has different trips on different rivers. And you can choose one based on how much rapids you want. This particular one had a bunch of class 1, 2, and 3 rapid sections. If you're a more experienced rafter and you want bigger ones, they do have some that have class 4 and 5 rapids that you could take.
Yeah.
Just go on the website, noc.com, go to whitewater rafting section, and you can get the details on their different outposts.
3s are about as crazy as I ever want to get.
The 3s were fun.
They're
were a
fun.
lot of fun.
They're fun, but you get into the 3s and it gets a little bit more intense. You have to really pay attention and do what your guides. I mean, you really should pay attention and do what your guide says, no matter what you're doing. But you get into more of a risk of flipping your raft or
bouncing
out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So our guide was Emma. And so let's take a minute to talk about Emma. Emma was so much fun.
She was great.
And she was very competent. Not a single second did I feel at all unsafe in the raft with her.
Yes.
She was fantastic.
And very kind.
One of the nicest people outside of rafting I've ever met. Yeah, she even took a video of you jumping off the rock.
Yes. Yes.
So that was very nice of her.
Oh my gosh, that was the scariest thing. So you jumped off the rock too. They have this part. Now they don't always let you jump off this rock. If the river's low, they don't even mention it or offer it or anything. I forgot what and they said it's very, very, do this at your own risk. You definitely sign a waiver before you even start rafting that, hey, if I get hurt, that's on me.
Yeah. So about a quarter of a way through, they pull you off to the side of the river. And then there's this little, I don't even want to call it a trail. Basically, you scramble up the rocks to this rock ledge. Mm-hmm. And they let whoever wants to jump off.
Now, there was this little girl in our group of rafts, and she, I think, was 7 years old. And she climbed up there and she jumped off like a champ. And she was, I was amazed. And then there was, so Emma's aunt was Aunt Katie.
Aunt Katie.
She was in the boat with us, and she's 65, and she went and jumped off. And she was the one that said to me, "Come on, Donna, let's do this." And I was like, because I was seriously
I got up
debating.
there and jumped first. I was the first one to jump off.
Yes, the very first one. That's crazy to me.
It was so much fun.
It was.
It's a little scary because it's probably 15 feet from the water. And
it's not like a diving board. It's not like you're actually
it's a rock ledge that is a little unsteady and it slopes down a little.
Yeah.
So you don't really feel like you have the best footing and you have to jump out some to avoid the rock.
I was certain.
But, I mean, obviously it's safe or they wouldn't let anybody do
Obviously it's safe or they wouldn't let anybody do it. But once I got up there, I was like, okay, this is how I die.
You did it. So I want everybody to understand Donna is a champion and she is very brave. It is more brave for her to have done it than it is for me because I didn't have nearly the fear that she did. She was up there shaking her hands and going back and forth, but then you did it. So that's very brave. And I'm very proud of you.
And I survived.
Yeah, you did.
I'm not a ghost right now. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. That was very, very scary.
Yeah. So anyway, that was fun. And then we got back in the rafts and continued our trip.
Yeah.
Emma was great the whole time. She's directing us. We got through every rapid without any problems. It was a lot of fun. So if you're doing the whitewater rafting there on the French Broad River, request Emma because she's so good. And if we go again, which I suspect we will, I'm going to ask for Emma again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want my daughter Rachel to come up and visit. And I want to take her and I want Rachel to visit Emma. And they would become besties really quick.
Oh, I think so. I can't imagine anybody not being besties with Emma.
Yeah.
She really is a truly sweet person.
You got a picture of me with Emma after the whitewater rafting.
I did.
Did you put it on our website?
I didn't. No.
Not yet?
I can if you want me to.
I want you to.
Okay. We'll put it up on our Instagram page.
Okay.
Now, the pictures from our whitewater rafting are on the Instagram page. So if anybody wants to go to Casual Climbers Podcast on Instagram, you'll see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they also have photo packages available.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one of the things that we got because we wanted to, with Carter and Michael going with us, we wanted to get pictures so that
and remember it.
that we could remember
They
it.
get action photos that are so
They
good.
do. So there's a guy that paddles in a kayak and he sets up at different areas and will take pictures, like super high quality professional photography. He's a professional photographer and will take pictures as you go.
As you go over rapids.
Yeah, as you go over
like
rapids.
action photos.
Yeah, they're great. And then they're like ready basically when you get back. By the time you get back, the photos are ready for you to see and download. So it was a lot of fun. Would you recommend this?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
This is something I want to do again.
Absolutely. I would do it again.
I don't know if I'm jumping off that rock again.
Why not?
Because I one and done. I think I'm done.
You're one and done. I'm definitely jumping.
I don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore. I was proving to myself that I could do it. I think, yeah, no. Here's the thing. The thing that was going through my head is the idea that you need to push off from that rock and get away from the rocks below and into the water. And then you're also trusting that water is deep, which I had
The water
seen.
was very deep. I mean, I went down a good 2 or 3, and we had our flotation devices and helmets on. And I still went down 2 or 3 feet, and there was no way I was touching the bottom there.
Okay.
So I felt it was completely safe. There was a little bit of hesitation because of the way the ledge is.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a straight flat ledge like the side of a pool. It's kind of rocky and unsteady. But yeah, once you jump in, it's so much fun and the water feels great.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. We're definitely going to do this again. If you want to do it, listeners, noc.com. Check the whitewater rafting section. The section we did was French Broad River, but they have other ones. They have the Chautauqua River trip, and they have other ones.
And they are very happy to inform you if you want more challenging, more of the 3s and 4s, more of the 4s and 5s. You can contact them and they'll let you know.
And if you're bringing kids, they have very kid-friendly ones that just have 1s or 1s and 2s. Yeah.
Yes.
So it accommodates all skill levels, all adventure levels. So yeah, definitely check it out. Nantahala Outdoor Center, noc.com. And be sure to request Emma because she was great.
Yeah.
So that's our episode this week, guys. Lovers Leap Loop in Hot Springs, North Carolina in the Pisgah National Forest. It's a wonderful hike that is very challenging, but gives you some really amazing vistas along the way, especially at the pinnacle. Donna also gave us a, quote, fun fact about Kathleen Lipe, an amazing survival story about the 1916 flood that destroyed and did lasting damage to the Asheville area along the French Broad and Swannanoa rivers. And then we reviewed the Nantahala Outdoor Center, whitewater rafting there on the French Broad River. Again, a shout out to Emma. Great guide. It was a ton of fun. We highly recommend everybody go to it. Finally, we have a new section on our website, Donna. It is a hiking gear section. And so what we've done is we have put links to the hiking gear that you and I personally have purchased and used and recommend to others.
Right. We will buy these things again when whatever it is wears out. We're going to.
Exactly.
These are things that we really actually love.
So we will add to this as we go. But if you're looking for quality hiking gear, and you and I are frugal.
Yeah.
So we don't go for the most expensive things. So this is
you've got
stuff that we find.
a lot of Scottish in your blood.
That's right.
Yep.
Pinch the penny. So what we recommend is going to be affordable, but a good quality. We would not put anything on there that is of bad quality or overly expensive just for the sake of a brand name. And also I want to say we have not been paid to sponsor any of these. So the recommendations we give are ones that we have purchased and bought ourselves.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe to us in whatever podcast app you use and be sure to leave us a review because that's how our show grows. Feel free to check out our trail photos at casualclimbers.com. And if you have a question, comment, or just want to drop us a line, you can reach us at casualclimberspodcast@gmail.com.
So Donna, I'm thinking about renaming this particular episode the Donna's Judgy episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there was so much judgment this week. I know we were asked to put more drama in, but attacking me, I don't think is the right way to go.
How are we going to get drama if I don't be a little bit contrary to you? I let some of those voices that are inside my head out.
How many voices are inside your head, Donna?
Multiple. Yeah.
Do we need to?
I mean, they're all they're similar sounding, but some of them are more judgmental. Some of them more kind.
Do we need to seek professional help for this?
Probably.
No, most of them are just because sometimes I'm a jerk.
No.
Yeah, not to you. Very rarely am I a jerk to you. Very rarely.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about right now.
Okay.
At all.
All right, well, it's getting weird.
Yeah.
Here at the end.
Yeah.
So we're just going to end this and say,
we'll see you out on the trails.